Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone in today's class for the first intermediate grade. Our textbook is Super Goal 2 and today we will cover the expansion units 5 to 8 writing. This lesson will be presented by me, teacher Mazen Harbi, and the sign language by Mr. Fawaz Al-Agil. So let's begin. Our objectives in today's lesson, we hope that at the end of this lesson you will be able to predict information from pictures and also trying to write a text. Before we do this, let's make a quick revision on our last lesson. Last lesson we had a reading lesson, and that reading was called My Favorite Hangout Place. And we have agreed that your favorite hangout place is the place that where you try to go to and spend the most of your time with, just to go there and rest at that place. So we have a couple of stages of this lesson. The first one was when we talk about what is your favorite place in your town and why. And we have talked about what do you like, what is the place that you like to sit in, that you like to spend most of your time in that place, and why do you like it? What are the reasons that you would say, for this reason I would like to choose that place? And we said that, for example, if you like, for example, a cafe, you maybe say that because of the atmosphere, because of the drinks that they serve, or because of its the friends who usually gather at that place. So each one of us has, of course, his own favorite place. So what about you, and why do you like that place? We have discussed a lot about this one. And also we have read about a very interesting text about the favorite place or the favorite hangout place from different people. The first one was Walter, when he said that I am from Canada and my favorite hangout place is the mall. It was the mall, which he said that the mall is one of the largest in the world. And in the beginning he tried to introduce the mall that he likes. He said that there are more than 100 restaurants, and maybe there is an amusement park and a golf course. And so the second one began to talk about his experience with that place. He said, I was there with friends and we walked around and we spent the whole afternoon there. And so he wanted to try vegetarian food. So he disagreed, or he had a bit of conversation between him and his friends who wants to try different things or different food. So they finally decided to go to a Chinese restaurant. So this was part of the experience that they may have or they may face at their favorite hangout place, the place where they gather at it together. And also we have talked about, or we have answered a couple of questions about the reading text about Walter. And we said that compare your favorite place to Walter's favorite place. And what do you think? So if you talk about your favorite place, try to compare it with Walter's favorite place. What do you think? What are the, let's say, the positives or the negatives of each place? So this is what comparison is all about, to see what usually works for you or does not work for others. And also read the text and answer the question and tell your partner what happened to Walter and his friends when they try to get something to eat. We also said that when we have read this text, try to introduce the story that you have read maybe to a family member or people around you, and they may find it interesting about that new place. So now I would like you to open your books on page 75. I would like you please to open your books on page 75. So here we have the third exercise on that page, which is writing. So what I need you to do now is try to think about a time when something funny or unexpected that happened to you and your friends, and write a story about it and read it to the class. So here we have, you may find it easy task, but it's not. So this text has to go through different levels. Let's try to focus on that text and try to explain some of the ideas behind this one. So think about a time when something funny or unexpected happened. So you remember in Walter's story, there is something that is unexpected happen, where he said that he disagreed with his friends about a certain type of food and what should they eat, or what should they have from, or what should they choose from the 100 restaurants that at that mall at that time. And also the unexpected thing was when they decided finally to choose a restaurant that it wasn't of their own choice. So now I would like you please to try to remember or think, you may pause the video and try to think a little bit about some funny story that happened to you. Not necessarily funny, maybe something that unexpected that has happened to you, and that that relates to your favorite hangout place or your favorite place that you usually go to. And if you don't have these kind of stories, so you may ask maybe a family member or a friend of yours or people around you. You may ask them about any funny story that has happened to them, and or also any unexpected events that has happened to them, just in order to write our task for today. And why is this important? It is important that we recall the things that happened to us and try to express these things in writing, as we are also going to practice using the past tense, because this happened in the past, and also help us to talk about or to write about things that we are already familiar with. So it's very, very important that if you don't, or you may have not stories like this, to ask people around you to tell you their stories. And also, when you finish reading to this story, I would like you to present it in front of your class. And if you don't, you may ask or you may present it in front of your family or people you may know who like or know these types of story. So before the first thing we need to do before writing any stories is just to highlight some of the important items or important things that we need to consider or need to think of before writing. So here, again, when you are thinking, it means that we need to brainstorm. We need to bring ideas first, and after we bring those ideas, we need to organize these ideas in a readable way, just for readers to understand what we are experiencing. So the first part in our writing task is thinking. This is the first part, is that we think about the story. And sometime when we try to recall something, or when we try to recall a story, or maybe in our case here, we try to read a story, it has to go through different stages. For example, thinking about a time when something happened to you or even a friend, and to write a story about it, the first thing that we need to consider to trying to recall that story is time. So when we are trying to remember a story, we need to remember at what time this story has happened. At what time? Does it happen maybe a few hours ago, or does it happen maybe last week, or last year, or maybe last month? So it's very, very important that we think about time. Not only this, but even not your own story, but even with someone else's story, if you want to remember his story and to tell it to different or to others, it's very important that you remember the time. This is the basic things to think of when we are writing or remembering or telling stories. So The first part is time. You need to recall time. Also, a place. Not only time is important, but also the place. So when we talk about story, or when we read a story, when we say that it happened last week, okay, it happened last week, but where exactly? The place is very important. And why is it important? Because when you mention the place, the reader will have more information about that kind of story. So for example, if we do not know that Walter did find difficulties in trying to choose his favorite restaurant, when we know that he's at the mall, we may understand, because at the mall there is a food court that has many different restaurants. But if we don't know the place, then we would have to ask a lot of questions. Like for example, where exactly do you find that place that has many restaurants? Where were you exactly? So this is why it is important to mention the place. It's very important to mention the place with the time. Not only this, but also it's important to recall the people, the characters, as they say, in that stories. So when you talk about the stories that happen, when you mention the time, you mention the place, okay, and that story was about you, okay, you can tell us, the listener or the reader of your story, who you were with. Who were you with? Were you with your friends or family members or your parents or family? So it's very important that we also mention the people and the characters who involved in this story, just to help us to also, as I said, with the place, to have more ideas about the story. So again, and I'm going to present these or apply these categories into Walter's stories. So we have Walter told us and which time did he go to the mall, and also the place, which is the mall, and the people, he said that I was with my friends. So these informations or information help us to understand more, to have a better picture about this story. Not only this, but also the events. So there is no story without events. So it's very important that you mention these events, what has happened. So you talked about the time, you talked about the place, you talked about the people who were you with, but what about the events? What exactly happened? What exactly happened between you and the people that you mentioned the story? And what exactly happened in the place that you have mentioned? So events are very important, and we have learned how can we put these events, if you remember the lesson with the consequence words, where we can say this is the first thing that happened first, and then we use the word after that, and then, and next, and finally. So this is a good use of these events, is that we try, especially if we have more than one event, it's very important that we use it in the story. And the final part in telling or writing or reporting a story, which is other information. Yes, we may have talk about a time or a place or people or event, but we have some bit of extra information, like for example in Walter's case, the kind of food that he ordered or the kind of clothes that he is wearing. So this is what we call the other information. It's very important that we write these information just to have a well written story. So I thought of a story of myself, and here I'm going to show you how can I divided it using these 5 things. So in regards of time, it has happened last week, and in regards of the place, it was at the mall, and regards of the people, me and my friends were in that story. And the events, I wrote only simple events, as you're going to read it later. Shopping, eating, and missing our things. And regard of other information, asking the waiter and thinking to call police. So these are the information that I need to put. This is the thinking stage. I need to put these informations next to me, and then I can collect them and start by writing a sentence by sentence the story. So this is how I come up with my story. So the story, as you can see here, last week, so let me read it for you. Last week, me and my friends decided to go shopping. We went to the mall and spent all the day buying different items from different stores. At the end of the day, we were hungry, so we decided to go to the food court. Each one of us ordered a meal from a restaurant of his choice. The food was delicious. We had a good time. After that, we went out. We realized that we forgot all the things we bought at the food court. So we rushed back, but we didn't find them. I was angry, but my friend asked the waiter about it. So he told him that he had them and gave it to us. We laughed a lot about what happened, but at the end we were very happy to find them. So this is a short story about something unexpected that has happened to me. And if you can focus clearly on that story, you can see that I have talked about time, which is last week, and also about people, me and my friends, and also about the place at the mall. And here the events, I have here listed the events and also the other information that I have added. So here I said that last week me and my friends decided to go shopping. So we went to the mall. We spent all the day buying different items from different stores. And at the end of the day, we were hungry, so we decided to go to the food court. This is an event. And each one of us ordered a meal from a restaurant of his choice. The food was delicious. We had a good time. And after that, so this is very important when you try to put the things in order. After that, we went out. We realized that we forgot all the things we bought at the food court. We rushed back. We hurried back. We were in a hurry when we go back inside the mall, and we didn't find our things, the things that we bought, the items that we bought. So I was angry. My friend asked the waiter about it, and he said I had them, and he gave it back to us. When we remember all what happened, we laughed a lot, and but at the end we were very happy to find them. So you can write a similar story to this as long as you remember to complete these 5 items. To remember the time, the place, the people, the events, and also other information that you may recall or remember. So now we have reached the end of our lesson. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.